YouTube? What is going on, fellow fantasy people? And of course, what is up? The catch. Fam got a special stream in order tonight, man. It's week 10, okay? After that awful Ravens Dolphins game, okay, we're officially one game into week 10. And before you know it, guys, it's going to be week 11. Like, this season is flying by. So it is definitely time to start to begin to think about how to shape your roster heading into the fantasy playoffs, right? I mean, it's seriously, it's that time, which is just blowing my mind, right? As I say it out loud, okay. For most leagues out there, week 15 is when you are more than likely starting your fantasy playoffs. Okay, that's at least the assumption I'm making for most of the leagues I plan. That's when we're starting 6 teams going into the playoffs, but it's different for everyone. So keep that in mind. But for most of the discussion tonight, we're going to be going off of weeks 15 through 17. Who are the best players to own? What teams have the most favorable matchups within those weeks? And we can touch on, a couple other weeks, week 14, maybe if you guys need to as well. But nonetheless, man, going to be a great stream tonight. A lot to get in here. So go ahead and smash that like button on the way in. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that sub button, baby. We are on the road to 500 subscribers here at the Catch. Can't believe it, man. It's been a phenomenal season. Still far from over, even though we were thinking ahead, man. Get that notification bell on so you guys never miss an upload or stream. And let's get right into it, man. And of course, if you guys watch this retrospectively, man, if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, whatever you guys need, right? Drop in the comment section below. I'll get right back to you, man. I'll be personally responding to every single comment. So, yeah, I'm happy to get to some live fantasy Q&A at the end of the stream. But like I said, I mean, if you guys watch this retrospectively, the beginning of this stream is really going to be diving into the best playoff schedules for fantasy football this year, as well as some of the best players to own based on those schedules as well. So, live fantasy Q&A at the end a little bit for you guys. I know it's a little bit of a different stream. But anyways, guys, like I said, let's get right into it. Didn't mean to go on a tangent there. But all right, so listen, guys, there's a couple players who automatically pop into my head, right, when we're looking at things here. So I want to start with just schedules in general, and then I want to look at some position groups in general as well. All right. So if we're looking at weeks 15 through 17, there is one team that really pops out to me. Okay. Um, and I, man, there's so many different ways we could do this. Okay. So we'll just kind of get rolling. This is kind of just open conversation. I plan on having a much more structured video for you guys in the future, but this is just kind of us, getting to the tip of the iceberg here and really starting to plan and look ahead. Okay. So Philadelphia in weeks 15 through 17 has the easiest schedule for the quarterback position and the wide receiver position. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So let's take a look here let's just pull up Devonta Smith, for example. Okay. Week 15, he's got Washington, right? And week 16, he's got the New York Giants. He does not play in week 14, though. So that kind of affects things there, right? If you're trying to plan ahead, right? And let's see what else we got here. Okay, let's go to Jalen Hurts. Why not? Now, here's the other interesting thing is, right, some leagues are going to be playing between weeks. Well, this is interesting, right? A lot of teams are probably going to play weeks 14 through 16, right? Probably not 15 through 17. So let's switch this back up, okay? The Eagles still have some pretty good matchups there, nonetheless. So let me return to the notes here. Okay. So, yeah, so the Eagles do have a good stretch there as well. So keep an eye out for the Eagles. And let me know, guys, in the comments, in the live chats, when is your league starting your fantasy playoffs? Because I definitely want to know, because it's a little bit different for everyone. And that could affect the quality, I guess, of this stream for you guys. If you guys are playing through week 17, if you're ending it at week 16, right? Because I don't really see a lot of teams playing through week 17, right? Most fantasy leagues are going to leave that final week of the season off of the ballot, right? And it makes sense, right? You have we're going through week 18. All right, I'm obviously confusing myself tonight, guys. I just want to make sure I am citing everything correctly here. Yes. Okay, we're good to go. It's just confusing with the added game. Okay, let's keep going. How we had it then. 15 through 17 is going to be the bulk of the playoff schedule. So, all right, let's get back to Jalen Hurts. I just completely tripped myself up. I apologize, guys. Okay. So, yeah, the Eagles on bye week 14, but then they've got Washington, the New York Giants, and Washington. I mean, yeah, for the Eagles wide receivers, especially Devonta Smith, I mean, that's huge, guys. That's ginormous, right? Uh, we've seen him be very inconsistent on the season, but nonetheless, man, Devonta Smith might be a free agent. He might be someone that you can go out and get a pretty easy trade for. He's going to be very valuable week 15 through 17. And Jalen Hurts on top of that is also going to be another guy that the quarterback position you might not be able to trade for the way he's played on the season. But right now, you might be able to buy him kind of low. I mean, he's been kind of underperforming. And if you can stash him, have him as your quarterback too, he's a phenomenal player to have right now. Okay, this is just unfair, man. As long as he's healthy, man, Kyler Murray has the second easiest schedule behind Jalen Hurts within that time period. The Arizona Cardinals have the second easiest schedule, week 15 through 17. I mean, if Kyler is fully healthy by then, that's just a cheat code, man. It's just a cheat code. So let's go ahead and pull up who does Kyler have specifically between those weeks. All right, let's see here. Week 15, he's got Detroit. Week 16, he's got Indy. Week 17, he's got Dallas. You could see some of those defenses. I mean, Indy's been pretty good. Dallas has been pretty good, but they've been a little bit weaker in the secondary. So I can see that overall. And then, yeah, for the receivers, man, they're fifth within that time period in strength of schedule. As you know, these numbers are going off of how the season stands today. So keep that in mind. I mean, of course, these things could change, but we want to keep them in mind for right now, right? And try and use this to our advantage. So the wide receivers for the Arizona Cardinals, like I said, the fifth easiest schedule between week 15 and 17, facing Detroit, Indy, and Dallas. So keep in mind of the Arizona Cardinals, right? You might be able to make a move for Christian Kirk, right? Maybe a little bit of an easier target, but also DeAndre Hopkins is someone that you can buy pretty low right now. He hasn't been playing. He hasn't been fully healthy. I've seen a lot of questions about trading for DeAndre Hopkins as well as trading DeAndre Hopkins away. He's got a phenomenal fantasy playoff schedule, so just keep that in mind, guys. I mean, he might be worth taking a swing on, especially if you can get a pretty good deal on him overall. All right, man. Okay. I was going to say Pittsburgh has the third easiest strength of schedule between weeks 15 and 17. So Ben Roethlisberger, is he worth taking a swing on? Probably not, because he'll probably still be pretty underwhelming. Let's just be honest within that time period. So I don't know that I feel great about that, but hey, maybe a good stash. Probably somebody can get off the waiver wires if you're hurting at the quarterback position. You could think about maybe stashing Big Ben for the fantasy playoffs, but I don't know how. I mean, he's just been completely underwhelming on these seasons. So I don't feel great about that. But in that time period, the Steelers are going to face Tennessee, Kansas City, and Cleveland. And that's going to leave the wide receivers at this point in time with the sixth easiest schedule overall. Now, some of those defenses have been improving and also unimproving at the same time, right? Tennessee's gotten much better, so we'll see if that still stands come closer to the fantasy playoffs. But Kansas City and Cleveland, very back and forth. We know the story about both those secondaries, so they've been very, very weak. So, yeah, Deontay Johnson, man, he is a great fantasy receiver to own for the playoffs this year. He's going to have some very, very favorable matchups overall. All right. San Francisco, man, they've got a beautiful, beautiful stretch right between weeks 15 and 17. Like I said, let me know, guys, tonight, right, or in the comment section if you guys watch this retrospectively, when are your fantasy playoffs? Because I'm definitely interested to know. But like I said, I'm just going off of, most people are playing between weeks 15 and 17. So that's just what we're going by for tonight, but let me know for future references. Sure. All right, San Francisco, whether it's Jimmy G or Trey Lance, as the season stands right now, they've got the fourth easiest schedule overall in terms of strength of opponent at the quarterback position. So, listen, Trey Lance is someone who might be hanging around still, right on the waiver wire that you could take a swing on. They're going to face Atlanta, Tennessee, and Houston. I mean, this is just unfair, right? Tennessee's secondary has been awful. I know their front seven's been playing quite well. Atlanta just around the 20th mark overall in terms of defending. So they're not very good. And then we all know the story about Houston. They played well in some games this year, but still, that's a great fantasy playoff schedule. Atlanta, Tennessee, and Houston. And that leaves for the wide receivers the fourth easiest overall schedule. And for tight ends or just George Kittle, the second easiest strength of schedule. Now, this technically brings the running back position into the 24th slot. And just so you guys know, for reference, Philadelphia's got the 11th strength of schedule for running backs, Arizona 21st, Pittsburgh 27th. I didn't really feel like those were worth mentioning. I mean, James Conner, don't get me wrong. Like, I love in all of those matchups, right? Najee Harris, we obviously love. Like, you're starting both of those guys no matter what. Philadelphia actually has the easiest out of the first couple of teams we covered, but I just don't feel confident in those Eagles running backs, so we're not mentioning them. Now, San Francisco coming in at 14 overall at the running back position in terms of strength of schedule, right? And I'm so sorry. I made a mistake here. Once again, guys, making a couple mistakes tonight. San Francisco at the tight end position has the 18th overall strength of schedule. I went just a spot ahead, right? But listen, for the running backs, okay, so scratch that note about George Kittle. Like I said, tonight is a learning experience for everyone involved, and we're just looking a little bit ahead. But the running back position, they've got the 14th easiest or hardest strength of schedule, however you want to look at it, right? And I actually really like a guy like Eli Mitchell, excuse me, moving into the fantasy playoffs. Like, I know it's a little bit tougher overall, but Atlanta, Tennessee, Houston, maybe outside of Tennessee in week 16, I just really like this outlook for Elijah Mitchell, man. So yeah, yeah, I would roll Elijah Mitchell. I just really think that the Niners going to have some really good games. And listen, man, like I said, I was spot off here, but I'm caught up now. The wide receivers for the San Francisco 49ers within that time stretch have the third easiest strength of schedule, man. Like, that's just ridiculous. Like, we all know that we love Deebo Samuel, but Brandon Ayuk, a guy that you can take a pretty easy swing on if he lasted through the waiver wires this past week, right? Someone that you can go out and trade for if you're in a good position. I really think over that stretch, he's going to have some good games. And really, when you look at the Niners' upcoming schedule, it's a tough matchup Monday night versus the Rams. But after that, they get Jacksonville, Minnesota, Seattle, Cincinnati. Then they finish in that playoff range with Atlanta, Tennessee, and Houston. Man, I want some pieces of these Niners wide receivers right now. Like, they have an incredibly easy strength of schedule coming up. It's just ridiculous. All right. Now, let's move on to the next team in the rankings here, okay? The New York Jets, okay? Their quarterbacks are going to be facing the fifth easiest strength of schedule. I don't know if we want to read into this. If you're really hurting, if you play in the super flex league, maybe we take a swing on Mike White if he's the guy by then. But outside of that, I just don't feel good about it. The running back position has the 24th easiest. Well, really, I guess 24th hardest strength of schedule, right? So I think that we're going to probably be staying away from guys like Ty Johnson as well as Michael Carter moving into the fantasy playoffs. Let's just take a look at the specific teams. Okay, Miami, Jacksonville, Tampa Bay. Yeah, believe it or not, Jacksonville's been okay against the position. And Miami, especially after what they did last night on Thursday Night Football, pretty good. And we all know Tampa Bay is pretty stout up front. So maybe due to volume, and you can take a swing on those guys, but they're not exactly favorable based on the schedule, right? Which is what we're primarily trying to look at tonight. Okay. Now, the wide receiver position for the New York Jets is quite good. It's the fourth easiest when we're looking at those teams, right? It makes sense. Miami, although they played well last night, whatever, right? Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, those secondaries are not good. So maybe we see Jamison Crowder step up. Corey Davis, right? Elijah Moore, who's probably just got picked up this past week, potentially on the waiver wire. Very, very good fantasy playoff or matchups here. And really, when you look at the Jets moving forward, they've got Buffalo this week. It's an awful matchup. But outside of that, man, Miami, Houston, Philly. Philly's pretty good against opposing wide receivers. New Orleans, who's pretty good against the run, but not as good in the secondary. And then Miami, Jacksonville, and Tampa Bay, like we just talked about. The Jets actually have some pretty good matchups from a fantasy perspective coming up. All right, let's look at Tennessee. The quarterback position comes in at seventh overall. The running back position comes in at 26th. The wide receiver position, for those of you who own AJ Brown, come in at number 8. So AJ Brown, a guy to seriously take a look at, right, in terms of buying. Probably have to buy him high, man. I mean, it is what it is. But really, tonight I do want a preference too. You don't necessarily want to be going out and trading for these players. Maybe if you're in a win now position, right? Maybe they don't have the most favorable matchups over the next couple of weeks. This is purely just looking at the actual fantasy playoffs. So keep that in mind as well. But AJ Brown's going to be facing Pittsburgh, San Francisco, and Miami. Like these secondaries are just not good at all right now. So he has got a good outlook in the fantasy playoffs. The running back position, like I said, 26 for Tennessee. Tight end position, 19th. Not that it's been very relevant. Now, the kicker position is 4th overall. That's the highest ranking and the most notable ranking on the night. So Randy Bullock, I mean, he's probably rostered in your league. He might be on your personal roster. If he is, I would reference, I would recommend holding on to him. Excuse me. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And Randy Bullock's going to have a pretty good fantasy playoff push. All right. The New Orleans Saints next on the list here at the quarterback position. They're coming in at 8th overall. And it's not bad, but are we really going to take a swing on Trevor Siemian or Taysom Hill in the playoffs? No. The running back position coming in at 29th. I mean, if we own Alvin Kamara, we're not even, I mean, he's basically matchup proof, but based on the schedule, it's not great. Wide receiver position coming in at 15th and the tight end position coming in at 7th, but there's really not a lot to touch on here, right? Outside of Alvin Kamara, it's like we're probably not starting a lot of these Saints players in the fantasy playoffs anyways. All right, New York Giants, the quarterback position comes in at 9th overall. Running back position 15th, the wide receiver position 10, tight end position 13th. So this isn't awful. Like this is actually, when you look at the QB, RB, wide receiver, tight end position, this is actually one of the more even, teams overall, right? I mean, 15th or under is not awful, but still, the interesting thing is you can probably get some of these wide receivers off the waiver wire heading into the fantasy playoffs. They might benefit from the fact that there's so many receivers in the system, but this is something to think about, but nothing to overreact to. I mean, Saquon Barkley, for those of you who own him, 15th overall in terms of strength of schedule is not bad at all. All right, the Green Bay Packers have a pretty good overall. I mean, this is a team that we want to take a look at as well, pretty similar to the Giants. Okay, I've heard a lot of buzz about Aaron Rodgers being one of the quarterbacks that we want to own heading into the fantasy playoffs, and you can't really argue against that, man. Like, the interesting thing is the Packers should be able to perform very well against these teams who are a little bit better, right? Okay, so Baltimore, Cleveland, Minnesota, like these are teams that play good, but can give up a lot of points at the same time and also play bad at the same time. So I do like where Aaron Rodgers is at, and I do like where the Packers are going to be at overall as well. Okay, so looking at the strength of schedules, right? Quarterback position, 10th, RB, 17th, wide receiver, 13th, tight end, 16th. Really not any relevant tight ends for the Packers right now. Devontae Adams probably going to have a very good stretch there. And the running back position for Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, 17th overall, right? Kind of middle of the pack, right? It's not awful, but I think these are going to be some pretty good games when we look at this, right? I mean, Baltimore, Cleveland, and Minnesota, I'm expecting some shootouts there and some bad secondary play. So, yeah, I like the Green Bay Packers in the fantasy playoffs as well. All right, guys, we're on an absolute roll. Guys, hope you guys are enjoying the stream tonight. Make sure you guys hit that like button if you're new to the channel. Make sure you hit the sub button down below, and let's keep on going. Okay, Washington, the quarterback position, 11th overall in terms of strength of schedule in the 2021 fantasy playoffs. Now, here's the interesting thing, okay? Washington's running backs, the most notable group we've hit tonight, 5th overall in the fantasy playoffs between weeks 15 and 17. They've got Philly, phenomenal matchup. Dallas, not the best, right? But we just saw Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon absolutely shred them. Now, week 9, is very, very different from week 16, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. But then, man, they get Philadelphia again. Guys, Philly is so bad against the run. I mean, that's really where this ranking is coming from in terms of strength of schedule. So really like Antonio Gibson if he's healthy by then, especially being that these are 3 divisional games in a row. Like, Washington is going to put everything on the line within these games. So I really, really like that outlook. And for JD McKissick as well, like in terms of a flex play at least. So keep an eye on the Washington football team's running backs heading into that point in the season. Now, listen to this. Washington's wide receivers, it's pretty tough. 24th overall within that stretch facing Philly and Dallas, right? Let's say you own Terry McLaurin, right? He's going to face Darius Slay, Diggs, and then Darius Slay again. Like, that's not good. It's not good if you own Terry McLaurin. Now, there's some pretty good weeks before that, right? Tampa Bay, Carolina, Seattle, Las Vegas, and Dallas. Like, there's some good matchups in there, but there's some rough matchups too. So, and then once again, look at the running backs. There's some rough matchups in there, like Tampa Bay and Carolina as well. So, nonetheless, weeks 15 through 17, what we're focusing on tonight, very, very good for the Washington football team's running backs, not as good for their receivers. Now, here's another interesting note on the same team. The tight end position comes on with the first number 1 easiest schedule out of all tight end groups in the league. So Logan Thomas should absolutely eat in the fantasy playoffs, man. And once again, being that these are big divisional games, right? Washington's going to be doing everything they can to win. Some part of me wants to sense that Dallas, Washington, and Philly playing each other should have some sense of what team makes the playoffs out of that division. So big games, good game scripts, some very, very good matchups for these Washington football teams running backs and Logan Thomas and maybe even Ricky Seals-Jones. But like I said, man, Scary Terry's got a scary outlook in the fantasy playoffs. Okay. Miami next on the list, probably Tua, maybe Jacoby Brisket, maybe Tua, right? We don't really know. The 12th easiest strength of schedule, 12th hardest strength of schedule, however you want to look at it. Really, the way this is going, I need to be phrasing this as the 12th hardest strength of schedule. I apologize, guys. Okay. Now the running backs, right? Number 6 in terms of difficulty. So I like, oh man, it's kind of crazy. Myles Gaskin heading in to the fantasy playoffs. I mean, I don't know how much you want to give up for Myles Gaskin, guys. But we need to at least talk about this, okay? Because it's a very good schedule overall, right? He's got the Jets to kick things off, which is great. And that's really probably where he's getting most of this ranking because he's got New Orleans and he's got Tennessee. New Orleans, very, very good against the run. Tennessee has been much, much improved on the season. So that's probably where this is coming from, okay? So I don't know that I feel too crazy about Myles Gaskin. Like maybe, like I don't recommend going out and making a move for him because week 15, he's going to have a good game. He's playing the Jets. They're the worst team in the league against opposing running back. So if you own Myles Gaskin, hold on to him for week 15. But outside of that, I'm sorry, guys. I don't feel too crazy about that overall. Now, the wide receiver position for the Dolphins, right? Jets, New Orleans, Tennessee. They've got the second easiest strength of schedule overall. So if you own Jalen Waddle, if you want to maybe start looking at Will Fuller, who I'm not personally very confident in, I'm not going to lie, but maybe we just try to get a piece of that receiving group. But man, outside of Jalen Waddle, I'm not confident in any of those guys. So I don't know how strongly I recommend that, but maybe it's something to think about. Now, here's bad news, right? From a Mike Gesicki owner, a advocate of Mike Gesicki, that group of 3 games will lead to the 31st most difficult strength of schedule for a tight end in the fantasy playoffs, which is second to last, which is very, very bad. And after that goose egg from Mike Gesicki last night, I'm like, oh gosh. I mean, he's ranking like before week 10, third on the season. He's been phenomenal, guys, outside of that other goose egg he had on the season, right? But man, that's tough. That's a tough break for those of you who are like me and own Mike Gesicki. So just keep that in mind too, guys. It's not a good fantasy outlook in the playoffs for our guy, Mike G. Okay, the LA Chargers for the quarterback position, Justin Herbert, the 13th easiest strength of schedule, so not too bad there. The running back position, Austin Eckler, the 20th, wide receiver, 21st, tight end, Jared Cook would be the 10th. So this isn't great, but it could be a lot worse. So the Chargers, they don't look phenomenal in the fantasy playoffs, but it could be a lot worse, right? All right, the LA Rams. Okay, our other LA team. Matt Stafford should have the 14th easiest strength of schedule. That's not bad. That's really not bad at all. Okay. Especially with the things that he can do, right? I mean, I don't think we have any reason to have doubt in Matthew Stafford or move on from him or anything like that. Now, the running back position, the third easiest strength of schedule. Okay. Seattle, Minnesota, Baltimore. The outlook is very, very good for Daryl Henderson. Okay. So keep that in mind. That's the best uh, strength of schedule we've had at the running back position on the night. The LA Rams, Daryl Henderson, the third easiest overall. The wide receiver position, 12th easiest. Tight end position, 11th. I mean, that's pretty darn good, right? You keep in mind Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Odell Beckham, Van Jefferson, Tyler Higbee, right? They've all got solid matchups versus Seattle, Minnesota, and Baltimore in an extremely, extremely crowded offense, right? So it actually looks pretty good for the Rams overall. All right, the Las Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr is going to have the 15th most difficult strength of schedule. The running back position is awful for Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake. Man, they've got the 30th most difficult strength of schedule through weeks 15 through 17, right? So that's not good. That's not good, right? Cleveland, Denver, Indianapolis. It's not good, but maybe due to volume, we can still take swings on those guys. The receiver position, Hunter Renfro, maybe the only guy I can think of there, really fantasy relevant right now. It's had a very deep leagues. The 11th easiest strength of schedule, so that's not bad. The tight end position, the 22nd. So not great for Darren Waller, but hey, he's Darren Waller. Like, we're not benching him, right? So Cincinnati, the 16th easiest strength of schedule for the quarterback position. The 16th easiest strength of schedule for the running back position. Wide receiver, 25th overall. So it gets a little tough for Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Let's look at the tight end position as well while we're here. The fourth easiest for CJ, who's your mama. So keep that in mind as well. But let's look at the specific games. Okay, we've got Denver, Baltimore, and Kansas City. So I can see why this gets hard for the wide receivers. But nonetheless, man, I just don't know if I can bench if I can bench Jamar Chase in that run. Like, Baltimore is easily the best matchup. Now, Pat Surtain is out right now, and that could be affecting these rankings, right? Denver could start to dip, and this could become a lot of an easier stretch for T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd, right? Because Kansas City is easily the best matchup here. Baltimore, the next best matchup in terms of secondary, and then Denver. I mean, Patrick Surtain's really been leading that group, although they can survive without him. So maybe that dips down a little bit for Jamar Chase and company. Keep an eye on that. Now, the tight end position, right? We got to take a look at that, man. I mean, CJ Uzma might be a great stream for the fantasy playoffs. Keep that in mind, guys. Keep that in mind for sure. All right, Seattle, the quarterback position coming in at 17th overall for the most difficult schedule. The RB position, guys, for Seattle, 9th. That's not bad at all. That's not bad at all. We need to keep an eye on these running backs from Seattle heading into the fantasy playoffs, right? Being weeks 15 through 17. The LA Rams, Chicago, and Detroit. Now, those matchups sound kind of intimidating, right? LA has not been as good against the run as we like to believe, but they've been pretty good. Chicago has not been as good against the run as we like to believe, but they've been pretty good as well. Detroit has been surprisingly good if you go and look at the numbers. So keep that in mind as well. But I'm not too worried there. I think that, that's a sneaky play. Maybe if you're able to pick up an Alex Collins or a Chris Carson, depending on who's playing at the time, right? Now, the wide receiver group, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, 14th overall. That's a pretty good range for those two guys, okay? Tight end position, really not anyone we're looking at here, but 27th. I mean, it's just awful. If anything, that makes us stay away from these Seattle tight ends even more. I mean, I don't think anyone's really using Gerald Everett or anyone at this point, but if you are, maybe in a very deep league, but probably want to stay away from them in the fantasy playoffs. Okay, the kicker position for Seattle, third easiest strength of schedule through the fantasy playoffs. That's the highest number we've seen tonight. So keep that in mind as well. Detroit, 18th on the list. I don't think we're starting Jared Goff in the fantasy playoffs anyways. The running back position, guys, number 7. Really like DeAndre Swift through the fantasy playoffs week weeks 15 through 17. Okay. Let's pull up who they're playing specifically. Arizona, a tough matchup, but then Atlanta and Seattle. And nonetheless, DeAndre Swift should see enough volume week 15 against Arizona that we probably don't even need to worry too much. Like, he's probably still a solid enough starter there. But just keep in mind, it is a little bit of a tougher matchup. They are a top 10 unit against the run. And let's see here. Did they already? Okay, never mind. But nonetheless, Atlanta and Seattle is beautiful. Beautiful for DeAndre Swift in the fantasy playoffs. Wide receiver position, we're not starting these wide receivers in the fantasy playoffs. If you are, let me know. The tight end position, though, for TJ Hawkinson is 25th overall, which, 25th in terms of most difficult schedule. So that's not great for Hawkinson owners. Keep that in mind, right? All right, Houston. I mean, are we starting Tyrod Taylor in the fantasy playoffs? No. The running back position, are we going to trust David Johnson or Philip Lindsay in the fantasy playoffs? I doubt it. But if you are considering it, they actually have the 10th easiest strength of schedule. So maybe we can take a look here. I mean, deeper leagues, I can understand this for sure. I mean, playing in a 20-man league myself, like I can get wanting to look at these things. So Jacksonville, the Chargers, San Francisco, that's actually amazing. That's pretty good. Yeah. Am I really recommending taking a look at David Johnson or Philip Lindsay? Maybe if you've got the roster room, if you've got the depth, like maybe not this specific week, but as week 15 starts to approach, if one of those guys is hanging around, maybe they're worth taking a swing on, right? That's all I'm saying. Wide receiver position, 27th overall. Not good. Not good for Brandon Cooks. Tight end position, are we really? Nah, we're not starting any Houston tight ends in the playoffs. Okay. Minnesota, Kirk Cousins has the 20th most difficult strength of schedule. The running back position for Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison, 25th. That's pretty rough, guys. That's pretty rough. Wide receiver position, 18th for Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, 21st for the tight end position of Tyler Conklin. So it's a little tough, right, for the Minnesota Vikings in terms of week 15 through 17. Like, it's certainly not good. Now, all three of those main guys, Jefferson, Cook, and Thielen, see enough volume that maybe you could take a swing here, but they've got Chicago, the Rams, and Green Bay. Now, I could see some of these games getting pretty high scoring and maybe defense goes out the window. Two of these games are prime time. Chicago week 15 is a Monday night game. Week 17 with at Green Bay, a Sunday night game. So these could be, higher scoring games. We'll have to wait and see. But overall, right now, the strength of schedule looks pretty difficult as it stands. All right, New England, are we starting Mac Jones? I don't think so, but he's got the 21st most difficult schedule. Now, the running back position for New England, who's really starting to make some revolving door moves as we speak with injuries and stuff. 31st most difficult strength of schedule. So if you own Harris, if you own Stevenson, if you own Bolden, right? If you're playing around with that revolving door of running backs, you might not want to consider it, as they've got Indianapolis, Buffalo, and Jacksonville. Jacksonville has been better against the run than we like to think. But those first two matchups, definitely very difficult. Wide receiver position, are we really going to start any of these guys? I don't think so, but they've got the 17th most difficult schedule. It's not good, pretty middle of the pack, so we're probably going to stay away from them. Now, Hunter Henry has the 6th easiest strength of schedule. So that's good if you own Hunter Henry. He is a player to own in the fantasy playoffs. All right. Yeah, this might surprise you guys. Maybe not, because we're going off strength of schedule here, but Tampa Bay, the 22nd most difficult strength of schedule for the quarterback position. Now, you're still starting Tom Brady in these games. Like, he's been the best quarterback in fantasy football on the year, right? And that's with a bye week. He's got Washington this week to make up for anything he lost. So, listen, they get New Orleans, Carolina, and the New York Jets. Here's the thing. New Orleans and Carolina, tough matchups, don't get me wrong. But big divisional games, right? And Tom Brady's going to do everything he can to win those games. I mean, the last time, right, when we saw them face New Orleans before the week 9 bye week, over 50 points scored in that game, right? So I'm not worrying too much about that. We haven't actually seen them, or have we? No, we haven't actually seen them play Carolina this year. That's right. They played them week 18 as well. Now, here's the thing. week 17, right? We didn't even go to the running back position. I'm sorry. The running backs have the eighth easiest strength of schedule in that time period, and the wide receivers have the 20th, and then Gronk and the rest of those Titans have the 24th. So that's not great, but man, can we really bench these guys? I don't think so. Now, the running back position is pretty good. Surprisingly, right? And the reason this ranking is boosted up to 8 is not because of the Saints or the Panthers at all. Those are tough matches for Leonard Fournette, but he gets the New York Jets in week 17. If you are confident you have a shot at making the fantasy championship and you own Leonard Fournette, you can't drop him, man, just because he faces the Jets in the championship game. So bear that in mind as well. And yeah, like I said, we really can't consider benching these receivers. Maybe Gronk, but man, you can't. I don't think you can. We're starting all the Tampa Bay players in the playoffs. You just can't. All right, Justin Fields or whoever plays quarterback for the Chicago Bears by that time, which I think will be Justin Fields, has the 23rd most difficult strength of schedule. But this is a big one, guys. I mean, you guys have already probably heard of it. We've talked about this throughout the streams. This is pretty well known in the fantasy community as well. David Montgomery, man, I mean, by the notes we're going off, has the second easiest strength of schedule in the fantasy playoffs. Okay. Minnesota, Seattle, and the New York Giants. And even before that, man, when they come back in week 11, they've got Baltimore, Detroit, Arizona, Green Bay. Before that, pretty good stretch overall. But man, Minnesota, Seattle, and the Giants. I think David Montgomery could be a player who wins you your fantasy football league, man. He is going to have a monster playoff stretch, man. I just can't emphasize this enough. This was something that I do apologize for because I wish I had looked into this just a little bit earlier and recommended David Montgomery being a vital piece of trade packages for you guys, right? And I feel so bad about that not happening, right? But nonetheless, he still might be a player who didn't have a massive performance last week, right, against a good Pittsburgh Steelers defense, but he might be a player that you can trade for and not have to give up a whole lot. And I would try to do that right now, guys. If you are confident you're making it to the fantasy playoffs and it's not going to hurt your chances of winning now and position yourself, David Montgomery is a player to own, guys. I mean, he's right up there with the best of them in terms of strength of schedule. Man, I really encourage you guys to take a look at trading for David Montgomery. Wide receiver position for the Bears, 9th overall for Robinson and Mooney. I really like Mooney in the fantasy playoffs, man, like as a kind of a sleeper player. As long as Justin Fields is the starting quarterback, we know that chemistry is there for Fields and Mooney. Robinson, man, gosh, I just can't pull the trigger on Robinson, man. But if you're really hurting at the receiver position come fantasy playoff times, he is a guy to take a look at. Cole Kmet, tight end position, the 20th most difficult schedule. The kicker position, the 6th easiest schedule. So look at that too. But man, big takeaway there. David Montgomery, a player that if you guys own, don't lose him. If you guys think you're making it to the playoffs, if you guys are not going to hurt your chances of positioning yourself, making it to the playoffs, take a look at David Montgomery, guys. I mean, he's absolutely worth it. All right, let's see here, boys. All right, Cleveland. Baker Mayfield, 24th most difficult strength of schedule, weeks 15 through 17. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, the 28th most difficult strength of schedule. The wide receiver position, the 30th most difficult strength of schedule. Not good. Jarvis Landry, Donovan Peoples-Jones just got picked up in a lot of leagues. Not good for those guys and those running backs, right? And Dearness Johnson, depending on who's healthy at the time, not good. The tight end position, though, 5th easiest strength of schedule for David Njoku and Austin Hooper. Are we confident starting them in the playoffs? I don't know, but if you need to, it's there, right? So, yeah, guys, I mean, listen, like I just picked up Landry in my primary league because he got dropped, and I'm really hurting at the receiver position, but I'm like, even when we look at the weeks coming up, right? I mean, New England, Detroit, Baltimore, bye week, Baltimore, Las Vegas, like these teams are actually surprisingly good against the wide receiver position. Then Green Bay and Pittsburgh, right? Now, due to volume alone, can I see a guy like Jarvis Landry playing okay? Maybe. But do we want to trust him in the playoffs? I don't know. Now, don't get this twisted, man. If you own Nick Chubb, like you're starting Nick Chubb, okay? And some of those matchups that we just looked at beforehand are good for Nick Chubb and the running backs. But listen, we got to look at the stats, and this is a tough run, especially that final week versus Pittsburgh in the fantasy championship, right? That's tough for a guy like Nick Chubb. Okay, so just keep that in mind. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Chubb had his worst game of the season when fully healthy when he played Pittsburgh. Yeah, yeah. Look at the numbers right now. 61 rushing yards and 8 receiving yards, nothing else. So, and let's see, they haven't played Baltimore for the first time yet. Okay. Isn't that kind of crazy? They get Baltimore and bye week in Baltimore. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, guys, I mean, don't get me wrong. If you own Nick Chubb, you're not benching him, but the strength of schedule is not good. All right, Matt Ryan, the Atlanta Ryans, the Atlanta Falcons, the 25th most difficult strength of schedule at the quarterback position. For the running backs, right? Mike Davis, Cordero Pounder, and Cheese, the 23rd most difficult strength of schedule. For the wide receiver position, 31st, and the tight end position, Kyle Pitts, 32nd. This is collectively one of the worst groups we'll look at tonight. Yeah, there's some other pretty bad groups that we're going to get to in a few minutes here, but that's not good, man. I mean, for those of you guys who've had to go out and get Russell Gage, maybe if Calvin Ridley comes back by that time, it's not good. Kyle Pitts, it's not good at all. The running back position, I think due to volume, you have to start Cordell Patterson. But this is one of the best divisions against opposing running backs and wide receivers. But that's not even who they're facing. Oh, my gosh. San Francisco, Detroit, and Buffalo. Now, here's the thing to keep an eye on here, okay? If Detroit starts to fall off towards the end of the season because they've been surprisingly good against opposing offenses, when you really go back and look at the numbers, this could change a bit because a majority of this ranking is coming from Buffalo being in week 17. And then part of it's coming from Detroit being middle of the pack. And then San Francisco's kind of evening this out because they have not been good defensively on the year. So maybe don't panic too much just yet if you own some of these Atlanta Falcons players. But at this point in the season, it's not good. Okay. Now, Younghoe Koo has the easiest strength of schedule, weeks 15 through 17 from the kicker position. If you own Q, you're probably not dropping him anytime soon, as productive as he is, but he is not a player to drop. The easiest strength of schedule, weeks 15 through 17, belongs to Younghoe Koo at the kicker position. Unbelievable, man. He is a phenomenal kicker, and he absolutely deserves to just ball out in the fantasy playoffs and have 10 to 20 points each and every game. So we'll see what happens, but that's something to absolutely know. All right. The Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence has the 26th most difficult strength of schedule. I don't think maybe outside of very deep leagues, like 20-man leagues, right? You'd be considering starting him anyways, but hey, the knowledge is out there for you now. Now, the man on our thumbnail tonight, James Robinson, number one, easiest strength of schedule as the season stands here, heading into week 10. Number one, guys, weeks 15 through 17 is James Robinson at the running back position. If he's healthy, right? If he's not, then Carlos Hyde. Okay. The Jacksonville Jaguars will be facing Houston, then the Jets, and then New England. New England, middle of the pack, the toughest matchup out of those guys. Houston's been better than we like to think. Don't get me wrong. Part of this ranking comes from the Jets being in there, but nonetheless, Houston is still very bad against opposing running backs. Listen, man, Robinson's been banged up. He is someone you might be able to buy low if you don't own him. If you do own him, hold on to him, man. That stretch is going to be phenomenal, okay? Robinson's right up there with Montgomery and Henderson. Two other backs we'll talk about tonight. And surprisingly, the Washington football team's squad, Gibson and McKissick, right? So we're just looking at strength of schedule, guys. And Robinson is a guy to own, hands down, okay? Cannot emphasize that anymore. He is a guy to own in the fantasy playoffs unless something drastically changes between now and then. All right, the wide receiver position for the Jacksonville Jaguars, it's not very good, 23rd, right? Tight end position, 12th, not too bad. Kicker position, second easiest overall for the Jacksonville Jaguars in the fantasy playoffs. So keep an eye on that too, guys. I mean, some of these kickers you might be able to swing on towards the end of the season. So Baltimore. Oh, I gotta take a drink of water for this, man. Oh man, especially after that performance Lamar Jackson gave us last night. And for those of you who don't know, I am a Lamar Jackson owner in my primary league. Yeah, okay. Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson, 27th most difficult strength of schedule. Now, can Lamar Jackson play phenomenal against bad or good defenses? Yes. Can he play not phenomenal against bad defenses like last night? Yes. Nonetheless, Green Bay, Cincinnati, and the LA Rams. So these are pretty tough matchups. Cincinnati is the easiest matchup out of the three. But the nice thing here is that these are, very good teams in all three of these games, right? And both of these teams can put up all three of these teams can put up a lot of points. So maybe these games, stay competitive. We'll have to see. But keep that in mind. It's not looking great for Lamar Jackson. Now, the running back position, 12th easiest strength of schedule. Wide receiver, 22nd. Tight end, 17th. Kicker, 31st for those of you who own Justin Tucker. But I would probably still take a chance on Justin Tucker in the fantasy playoffs. So, wide receiver position, it's not great for Hollywood Brown. Tight end position is not great, but it could be a lot worse for Mark Andrews. The running back position, while it's very, very difficult to trust Freeman and Murray and Bell, Williams earlier in the season, remember that on a weekly basis, it's not the worst strength of schedule coming in at number 12. Buffalo, 28th most difficult strength of schedule. For the quarterback position being Josh Allen. Running back position, Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. 19th, not great. Wide receiver position, 28th. And for our boy, Dawson Knox, 30th most difficult strength of schedule in the fantasy playoffs, man. It's tough. It's tough for these Buffalo Bills, right? They've got Carolina, New England, then Atlanta. Atlanta being absolutely the best matchup there. Carolina has slid down a little bit as the season progresses, but now that they've got Stephon Gilmore, I don't know that really changes too much. And then New England is just one of these teams that's middle of the pack defensively, but they can perform very, very well at unexpected times. So Atlanta, definitely a pretty decent matchup in week 17, but still not a great outlook for the Buffalo Bills. But don't get me wrong, man. This offense is so good that you're still probably starting most of those guys, right? You got to take a swing on volume, even based on some of these matchups, right? Carolina, it's pretty rough for Carolina, okay? We really need to touch on this, guys. Sam Darnold, the 29th. I'm so sorry. Wow. I really just assumed. I don't know why Sam Darnold came to my head, right? It's Cam Newton now. I mean, it might be Sam Darnold by that time, but at the moment, it's our boy Cam Newton back with the Carolina Panthers, right? Sorry, Cam, if you ever see this, but they've got Buffalo, Tampa Bay, and New Orleans, guys. It's bad. It's bad. But you know who it's really bad for? If you can't guess off of that stretch, Buffalo, Tampa Bay, and New Orleans, it's the 32nd, the most difficult strength of schedule for Christian McCaffrey in the running back position for the Carolina Panthers in the fantasy playoffs, guys. That really concerns me. I am a Christian McCaffrey owner in my primary league. That really concerns me, guys. Now, is Christian McCaffrey bulletproof? Sure. Is he matchup proof? To some degree. Don't get me wrong. But I just don't know, guys. That's something that we just got to take a note on. The wide receiver position, they have not been very consistent. DJ Moore being the best guy. 19th, it's not awful. Tight end position, 28th, not good, but I don't really think that we're trusting any Carolina Panthers tight ends in the playoffs anyways. But guys, we got to note that Christian McCaffrey has the most difficult strength of schedule week 15 through 17 as the season stands right now at the running back position. Keep that in mind, guys. It's really, really scary. Am I saying trade Christian McCaffrey? No. I did not recommend trading Christian McCaffrey when he was injured, and we got a lot of questions here at the channel on that, and I still believe in him, but guys, we got to take that. He might not be your RB1 that week. He might not be your RB2 those weeks. He might be a flex player, so just keep that in mind, guys. All right, Kansas City. Yeah, we haven't heard about them yet tonight. The 30th most difficult strength of schedule for Patrick Mahomes during weeks 15 through 17. That's big, guys. That's big. Okay. Especially with the struggles that Patty Mahomes has had on the year, but he's still coming in as fantasy QB6 right now. The Chargers, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. Now, These are big games for Kansas City. I'm assuming at that point in time, I could still see him playing okay throughout these games. Running back position, Clyde Lair, more than likely. Daryl Williams, right? The 13th most difficult strength of schedule. The wide receiver position, 26. Okay. So let's see. Chargers, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, man, I could still see Tyreek Hill playing okay. Am I telling you to bench Tyreek Hill? No. Travis Kelce, 15th overall most difficult strength of schedule for the tight end position. Am I telling you to bench or trade Travis Kelce for the fantasy playoffs? No. No, I'm not. All right. Denver Broncos, Teddy Bridgewater has the 31st most difficult strength of schedule. The wide receivers, okay, Sutton, Judy, our boy Tim Patrick, the 32nd most difficult strength of schedule, guys. It's not a good outlook for those involved. Now, two positions I did not mention. The running back position, baby. Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, the fourth easiest strength of schedule, weeks 15 through 17 as the season stands today. Man, I've been telling you guys, get a hold of these two backs while you can. And I mean, before that, guys, Philadelphia this week, a bye week, the Chargers, Kansas City, Detroit. Then here's your fantasy playoff, Cincinnati, Las Vegas, and the Chargers. Guys, they probably have the best collective strength of schedule for the rest of the season. I don't know that for a fact, but I'd be willing to bet that it's got to be within the top three. Javonte Williams, I really think is going to start to emerge. And I love Melvin Gordon. Don't get me wrong. He's been the better fantasy back on the season. And don't get me wrong. These guys steal a lot of value from one another, but the Broncos seem to be committed to a 50-50 split. And nonetheless, weeks 15 through 17, I want one of these players on your guys' fantasy rosters. They are going to help win you fantasy playoff games and fantasy championships. I cannot emphasize that enough. All right. The other position I did not mention, Noah Fant, guys, been a little banged up right now. This might be an opportunity to buy him low, potentially. Maybe you got to buy him high. If you think you're going to make it to the playoffs, you might want to consider that, as he has the third easiest strength of schedule as the season stands today, weeks 15 through 17. Once again, Cincinnati, Las Vegas, and the Chargers. I absolutely love Noah Fant in the fantasy playoffs, and he's got some very, very favorable matchups in the meantime. This week, he faces Philadelphia, the worst team in the league, versus opposing tight ends. He's got a bye week, the Chargers, Kansas City, and Detroit. Then that stretch we just talked about, Cincinnati, Las Vegas, and the Chargers. Man, Noah Fant's looking like a tight end to own, and he's missed some time, injuries, COVID, et cetera, et cetera. He's still tight end 9 on the year. So take a look at Noah Fant, man. I think he's going to have an excellent second half of the season and a phenomenal playoff run at that. All right. Only one team we haven't talked about tonight. Can you guys guess who it is? Stevens, our loyal co-host, Steven. Shout out to you. Steven's team, the Indianapolis Colts. Carson Wentz has the 32nd most difficult strength of schedule. The good news here is that the running back position, Jonathan Taylor and Naheem Hines, have the easiest out of all positions across the board for this team. The 22nd most difficult strength of schedule. It's not good, but listen, man, I mean, am I recommending trading Jonathan Taylor or benching him in the fantasy playoffs? No, not at all. Not even freaking close, right? Let's pull up these specific games. They're going to be facing New England, Arizona, and Las Vegas. It's not good, but if I'm starting any of these guys on the Colts, it's Jonathan Taylor, hands down. The wide receiver position, 29th most difficult. Tight end, 29th most difficult. Rodrigo Blankenship, the 30th most difficult strength of schedule. Now, one positive from this is that the Indianapolis Colts defense has the 5th easiest strength of schedule. So keep that in mind as well. But man, Michael Pittman, it looks rough. Mo Cox, if you guys are taking the swing on him, it looks rough. Jonathan Taylor, the best looking player here. All right, guys, that's it. That's every team, the main players I could think of, the best matchups I could think of. We could dissect this a little more. Like I said, I've been really wanting to get into this, and I'm going to make a far more structured video for you guys as Week 15 starts to approach. But I wanted to get you guys a taste of what to be looking out for in the fantasy playoffs. And we talked about the Colts defense, so I do want to go over. Jacksonville has the best strength of schedule. Buffalo's got the second. Tampa Bay's got the third. Cincinnati's got the fourth. Like I said, Indianapolis has got the fifth. San Fran has got the sixth. Let's see here. Denver's got the seventh. The Chargers have the eighth. Detroit's got the ninth. And then Miami's got the 10th. Most of those teams are maybe outside of the Bills and the Colts, maybe Tampa Bay, maybe Cincinnati, right? Are probably, and if I didn't mention Denver, maybe Denver, maybe available, probably available. Some of them don't have good upcoming matchups. So if you can snag a defense to stash for the fantasy playoffs, those are the teams to potentially consider the top 10 at least. So we can make a video on that specifically as well. But I hope this was helpful, guys. My big takeaway, James Robinson and David Montgomery, two guys who could win you fantasy playoffs. Philadelphia's wide receiver core to look at, as is Miami's. So not a lot to pick from there. I get that. But two teams to look at nonetheless. San Francisco's wide receivers, the Jets wide receivers, Arizona's wide receivers. When we're looking at the tight ends, Logan Thomas from Washington, Noah Fant. Did I mention the New York Jets tight end group has the second easiest? I don't know if I really want to trust them in the fantasy playoffs, but CJ, who's your mama? The Cleveland tight ends, right? We're taking a look there for the quarterbacks, man. Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Big Ben Roethlisberger, Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance, and Mike White or Zach Wilson. Those are your top five. Then we've got Dak Prescott, Ryan Tannehill, Trevor Siemian, Danny Dimes, and A-Rod, Aaron Rodgers. So outside of Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott, I'm probably willing to trust Aaron Rodgers the most out of those top 10 quarterbacks. So there you have it, guys. Okay. I hope, like I said, this was helpful for you guys starting to keen in on weeks 15 through 17, where most of you will more than likely be playing your fantasy playoffs and championship game. We've got a lot more planning to do, but I really just wanted to hop on here tonight and get you guys an idea based on the notes that I have. What players should we be looking at? What players should we maybe be a little bit more hesitant about? And what matchups and strength of schedules do we want to start to think about in weeks 15 through 17? So I truly appreciate you guys coming out tonight to the stream. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't done so already. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you sub down below. Had a blast doing this stream, and I'm going to hop into the live chat, see who came through tonight, and this will be our stream for the night. So let's see what the Catch fam has to say tonight. First, I got to take a sip of water, though. All right, let's see what's popping, boys and girls, I should say. Let's see. Marky Mark, what's good, Mark? Good to see you, my guy. I hope you had a great week. Always good to have you here at the Catch. Dan Rice sounds good for Minshew. yeah, no kidding. Ron the Goat, let's go. I was waiting on this. What's up, Ron? So Ron, I have my league set weeks 15, 16, 17. Dan Rice 15 through 17. 18 is the final week. Yeah, I got a little tripped up. You know, when you like see something and you're like, oh gosh, am I speaking on this wrong? I need to double check. Yeah, and the added game messed me up. But yes, 18 is the final week. Thank you, Dan Rice. Marky Mark 15, 16, 17. Okay, thank you. Dan Rice, you're mispronouncing Gardner Minshew. Stash Minshew Mania. Trust me, guys. Hey, if Hurts gets injured, yeah, I could see Minshew Mania in the playoffs. On the goat, I'm hurting, but I would never hurt myself with Big Ben. Love him, though. There you go. Secret, hey, Catch. D-Hop is dealing with hamstring like last week. Bust is GT game time decision again. Would I still play D-Hop if he plays, or do I play Ingram since AK ruled out? Do I play Kirk? And I'm trying to figure out who Bust is as game time decision. I would still play DeAndre Hopkins if he plays. And yes, I would definitely play Ingram. Well, here's the thing. If D-Hop doesn't play, you play Kirk. If since AK is out, you can start Ingram this week. Yeah. Chase, what's going on, man? Howdy, fellas. Chase, Terry, or Debo. C-Crip says I go Debo if he plays. I agree. Justin Young, Devonta Smith, Drake, or Kirk at the flex and full PPR. If D-Hop doesn't play. I like Kirk here. If not, I really like Drake this week. I'm not completely sold on Devonta Smith, but he's not a bad option either. Brandon, what's up, bro? Bro, my league manager made the trade deadline for last Wednesday. What a bomb. uh, yeah, I guess it is. The trade deadline's coming up for a lot of people, right? It differs from league to league. Justin Young, Fant or Pat Freiermuth and full PPR? Fant. I see you guys saying go with Freiermuth. Fant's got the Eagles. They're the worst team against opposing tight ends in the league. I like the momentum of Freiermuth a lot, but I like Fant even more this week. Chase, how about J.D. McKissick or Emmanuel Sanders? Ooh, I like McKissick this week. It's a good matchup. Should I play Freiermuth over Schultz? I like both this week. I do. But I could see both having a pretty good week, man. I could make an argument for Schultz or Freiermuth on the week for sure. Let's see here. Deshaun, what's going on, man? Would you trade Hill, Zeke, Judy, Daryl Williams for Kamara, Eckler, Deontay Johnson, and Cooks? Yeah, I would. Get Kamara and Eckler to replace Zeke and Williams. Deontay Johnson, extremely consistent. And you get that added depth with Cooks. I mean, the biggest loss is Hill and Zeke, of course. But, yeah, I think there's better overall value on the other side for sure. Yeah. JT Newman, do you think Ingram is a good start over Zach Moss since Kamara is out? Yes. Yes, I do. Error score, what's up? Should I start Ingram or DJ Moore? Man, I do like Ingram this week. He should see a good amount of volume. And I want to like DJ Moore, but maybe we just take a step back as we don't know how this offense is going to look. And Arizona's been okay against opposing receivers anyways. We don't really know this offense is going to look with Cam Newton out there. So maybe we just take a step away from there. Matt, officially got Tyreek on my team. Let's go, baby. Pick 2, Elijah Moore, Elijah Mitchell, Gallup, Odell, and McKissick. I would go with McKissick and Elijah Mitchell. Yeah. Take the running backs, man. Marky Mark, I would wait a week or two, start Gallup or OBJ if that helps. Yeah, fair enough. Crip, Ingram is a solid start low RB2 flex player. I agree. Jeff, Dawson Knox or Kittle this week based on matchups. Kittle's got a great matchup. I mean, the Rams are 23rd against opposing tight ends. And then let me double check. I don't know. I would imagine the Jets don't come in at a very high ranking, but they've been so sneaky on the season in terms of rankings that maybe we want to take a look. The Jets are 24th. I think I want to roll with Kittle here. He's coming off a giant game. I've got him against me this week, so I'm hoping he doesn't have a giant game, but maybe I'd roll with Kittle there. Yeah. Kittle or Schultz. Once again, I think Kittle a little bit more upside, a better matchup. Jeff, Robert Woods or Mike Williams. Ooh. I like both these guys this week, but maybe we see I don't want to read too much into the Odell Beckham trade, right? But maybe he takes away a little bit of value. I like Mike Williams versus the Minnesota Vikings. I really do. It's a great matchup. I go Williams there. Higher upside. Sea-Dog, rough start for the week. Had Hollywood, Tucker, and Ravens defense. Yeah. I had Mike Gesicki and Lamar Jackson, so I'm right there with you. A tough week for a lot of us. Aiden, how do you feel about Bateman? I've liked Bateman from the beginning, man. Liked him in the preseason. You guys can find one of the first videos on this channel. Was a video about Jerry Jeudy and Rashad Bateman heading into mock drafts and things and their stocks rising in the preseason, offseason, right? And, yeah, I've always liked Bateman. The volume's been there. He had a lot of garbage time points added to his stat line, but still he played very well with what he was given. Did he find the end zone? No. I really want him to find the end zone, but I do really like Bateman in full PPR. Zayon, what's going on, man? Traded DJ Moore, Robinson, and Sutton for Cooks, Henderson, and Justin Herbert. Rate the trade. That's if you needed a quarterback, that's an A trade. DJ Moore hurts, but you're replacing him with Cooks, which isn't awful. Robinson and Henderson are pretty even swap. Two of the guys we talked about tonight having fantastic fantasy playoff matchups. Robinson being a little bit better, but I really like Henderson. If you need a quarterback, then this is a good trade, being that you got Herbert overall. Phase 10 foil, what's up, man? Just traded away Jefferson, Pitts, and Robinson for DK and Waller. My team now: Lamar, Najee, Zeke, DK, Diggs, Waller, Javonte, with Jamar on the bench. Okay, I don't mind that. I like Robinson, DK. Wow, Jefferson and traded away Jefferson, Pitts, and Robinson for DK and Waller. Okay, I thought you got Robinson as well for a second. I was like, wow, that's a phenomenal trade. I still like your team overall. I like your team a lot, man. Yeah. Let's see here. Let's see. Hey, look at you guys. A lot of good conversation between the catch fan tonight. Ben, should I trade Waller and Jamar Chase for Aaron Jones and Hawkinson? It depends on the roster, but I don't know that I would. I don't know that I would. MPX 1606. Would you trade Saquon and Odell Beckham for Fernet and Mike Williams? Yes, I would. Far higher upside with Mike Williams. A pretty even swap between Saquon and Fernet. I would. Justin Ingram or Pittman? I think I'm rolling Pittman for the week. Yeah, I think I'm rolling Pittman. I mean, I like Ingram this week. I think he's going to see good volume. It's not the worst matchup overall, but Pittman's been so consistent lately that I think I'd lean Pittman here. Jacksonville's been very bad in the secondary. I think I lean Pittman for sure. Let's see here. Chase, yeah, as a Denver fan, I love me some Williams, but he's a bit boomer bust on plays, just as likely to get 1 yard as he is. 10 plays, fair enough, fair enough. LeBron's brain, chat what you think. Trade away Hawkins and Tony for Robinson for flex. I have Kelsey. Yeah, I would do that. I know I'm not the chat, but I would. Chase, his vision needs improvement. Gordon isn't going anywhere yet because of those reasons. Hey, I'm not arguing that, but I love these matchups in the fantasy playoffs for those guys, my guy. Christian, should I trade away Davante Adams and Saquon for CMC and Allen? No, I wouldn't. No. LeBron's brain. I traded Melvin, Gordon, Higgins, Goddard for Kelsey, Judy, so I'm stoked. There you go. There you go. Spy Coffee 456. Brandon Ayuk or Mark Ingram? Ooh, that's tough. It's too tough. All right, that's tough. The two guys on the rise, I meant to say. I like what C. Crip's saying here. If I want to say floor, go Ingram. Higher ceiling, go Ayuk. I like that call. I think that I'm at the same place there. Yeah. Connor, Green Bay, Dallas, Denver defense this week. That's tough. Huh. Man, I thought about taking a swing on Denver this week, as right now I have the Rams in. I mean, I'm hurting at defense right now, guys. I'm not going to lie. In my primary league, that is. Let's take a closer look. Packers have Seattle. I don't like that matchup at all. The Cowboys have Atlanta. I kind of like that one. And then, listen, the Broncos have Philly, but Philly's a top 8, seventh best team against opposing offenses on the year from a fantasy perspective. So I don't think I'm taking that chance either. I like Dallas the most. I really do. I like Dallas the most here. Yeah. LeBron's brain, the guy that had Kelsey was wide receiver tight end heavy with literally no running back. Okay. Yeah. I like it. All right, guys. So I hope tonight's stream was helpful. I hope this got you guys a better idea of what to expect weeks 15 through 17. Like I said, there's going to be some much more structured videos coming up, and maybe that'll be a little bit more helpful in terms of your guys' planning and being able to visualize things. But I just wanted to hop on here and get you guys a taste, right? Like I said, and get you guys starting to think about weeks 15 through 17, which is where I believe almost everyone will be conducting their fantasy playoffs. Okay. So like I said, much more content to come around the fantasy playoffs, but I wanted to just hop on tonight and get you guys started, right? Started thinking. So I appreciate everyone coming out. Hit that like button if you guys didn't do so already. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Get that notification bell on so you guys never miss a upload or stream. Like always, man, I just appreciate this community. Appreciate the Catch fam, man. It's been a phenomenal ride, and we still got plenty of weeks to go. Still got plenty of time until the fantasy playoffs, but I just want to say, another week about to be in the books, right? And I just really want to say how much I appreciate you guys on a week-to-week, night-to-night basis. I'll get into a couple more questions, and we'll cap off this stream over the next 5 minutes. Christian, should I trade away Nick Chubb and DJ Moore for Devontae Adams? I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Uh, LeBron's brain and C. Crip say no. He's got an easy schedule. I mean, uh, I wouldn't necessarily. No. Chubb best playoff running back matchup wise. Not necessarily. Looking at the strength of schedule we went over, but still, he's got some phenomenal matchups coming up beforehand. Based on the numbers we have, it's the 28th most difficult strength of schedule for Nick Chubb. But there's some really good weeks, and I mean, regardless, like we kind of talked about that when we went over the uh, Cleveland Browns strength or difficulty, right? Strength of schedule. Uh, he's still going to play well in these games. I mean, he's got New England this week, although he's out due to COVID, but then Detroit, Baltimore, bye week, Baltimore, Las Vegas, Green Bay, and Pittsburgh. It's still fairly favorable overall. But and a lot of these, the thing to keep in mind, guys, right? We're looking at the strength of schedule based on today. That could change as the weeks progress. And some of these rankings are based off of lower scoring games from bad teams. So keep that in mind too. I don't necessarily disagree. I do like a lot of these matchups coming up. Yo, 193. What's up, bro? What's going on, man? Sad loss for my team last night. We'll bounce back. Hey, a lot of unfortunate fantasy plays last night for a lot of people. Good to see you, though, man. I appreciate you coming through. Secret Dolphins D came to play. It's unfortunate. Yeah, I don't know what last night was. If you guys were on the stream at all with me and Steven, we were just like, what in the world is happening? I mean, we were just happy we had Madden to entertain you guys because that game was just awful. Justin, should I sit Jefferson for Robert Woods? I don't think so. Like, I don't want to read. I still think Robert Woods is going to be fine on the season. I do. I don't think that OBJ steals too much firepower from Bobby Trees or Cooper Cup, to be quite frank. I wouldn't sit Justin Jefferson. Like, really, when you look at the stats, he's really only had one disappointing game in full PPR. And the Chargers are pretty good against posting wide receivers, but um, oh, now when we look at Robert Woods, though, in San Francisco, man, is there any way you can start both of those guys? Like, they've both got pretty good matchups and game scripts. Let's see here. All right, Justin, Gaskin and Gasecki lost me this week. Yeah, Gasecki and Lamar probably lost me this week. It's just an awful game that no one could predict, right? LeBron's brain. Should I try to force Hawkinson and Judy for Chubb? Hell yeah, man. Probably will not happen, but worth a try. Yeah, it's worth a try. Go for it, man. Why not? Why not? K9, your thoughts on Hollywood Brown? Um, I don't have any problem with Brown whatsoever. He didn't have a good game at all last night, but the Ravens didn't have a good game. Outside of Mark Andrews, probably the only notable start. But no, I think Hollywood Brown's going to be fine, man. I truly do. When you look at what he's done on the season, he's still been extremely consistent. Only 3 points, or excuse me, 3 games with 7 points or less. Outside of that, every single game outside of those 3 games, he's had at least 16 fantasy points. So he'll be just fine. He's got Chicago and Cleveland, and then Pittsburgh and then Cleveland. Very bad secondaries. Green Bay, Cincinnati, and the Rams in the fantasy playoffs. I think he'll be just fine, man. I'm not losing faith in him whatsoever. Yeah, I like where he's at. Bateman, second half of the season bump. Yeah, I think in full PPR. But still haven't seen him found the end zone. But in full PPR for sure. Secret, don't be worried about Brown. He's fine. He'll for sure bounce back. I agree with that. Jeez Louise, my whole league thinks Gasecki is trash. Hey, you know I love Mike G, but we talked about this earlier in the stream. A tough fantasy playoff matchup or matchups week 15 through 17. And yeah, he put up a goose egg. I can't argue against that, but I still love my point, Mike G, on the season. You guys know I do. We'll see what happens though. So, all right, guys, we're going to go ahead and cap off the stream. A little bit of a shorter stream tonight, guys. I do apologize. I have a very, very busy weekend ahead of myself. So I apologize, guys, but I'm glad I got some Final Fantasy Q&A for you guys. I will be on tomorrow 2 times. So keep an eye out, guys. We'll be doing 2 streams tomorrow. Make sure you got the notification bell on so that way you never miss an upload or stream. So yeah, keep an eye out tomorrow, guys. Got lots of content coming your way and some Final Week 10 fantasy Q&A. If you guys have questions tomorrow night, make sure you guys tune in for the Saturday night late stream. Won't be running as long tomorrow, but we will be on tomorrow night because we can't break that tradition here at the Catch, man. So make sure you hit that like button, man. Make sure if you're new to the channel, you hit that sub button down below. If you guys just hopped in or whatever, man, go back and watch the beginning of the stream, man. We got into a lot of content revolving around weeks 15 through 17 for the fantasy playoffs, and I really hope that this stream was helpful for you guys. Like I said, we will have some much more structured videos around the fantasy playoffs coming out for you guys, so make sure you stay tuned in a couple weeks. And I just can't express how grateful I am for this community, for the Catch fam. You guys are phenomenal. Thank you guys so much for coming out to tonight's stream. Hope you guys have had a great weekend. Everyone have a phenomenal and safe weekend as well. And week 10 is almost upon us, man. This season is just flying by. It's been an absolute blast with each and every one of you. So with that, I got nothing else to say, but thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on the Catch, and peace.